So, all right. So there's a few of these topics I just want to go over. So just for the people playing along at home, there's a couple of framing-related questions that we'll sort of see what Sean and Jack have to say about them that you might have sort of missed. So one of them was from the infamous Lily Pejkic. Let me just read here so I get it right. Customer wants all 40 panels together. The design is in landscape, system is end-phase and can be monitored, but he wants no gaps whatsoever. The CC notes spacing requirements for commercial. What is the ruling for residential? Seeing if there is any rules regarding this or just manufacturer spacing recommendations for expansion. Now this post on Solar Cut is working together for the moment of us printing the data, like it had close to 2,000 views, which is sort of very, very significant. Okay. Do you, Sean or Jack, have sort of comments to go along with that?
Yeah, so this is...
Oh, you go, Sean. Sorry, mate. Just cut you off. That's good.
I was just going to say, so I guess I have to presume that Lily, and I think it's Pejkic, not Pejkic, but
I get it out. Yeah.
It's not like either of us are ethnic or anything.
I think, I presume she's talking about the thermal expansion issue.
Yeah, so just to avoid tension between the rows, just for thermal expansion.
Yeah. So just, on thermal expansion, so we can actually, it depends on the location of the install. So basically, and it all depends on the variation in temperature, right? And so the metal expands and contracts based on the difference in temperature. And so in a place like Melbourne, you might have a more severe change or fluctuation in temperature than you would in the places further north, like Queensland and whatnot, where you might only get a fluctuation of 10 to 15 degrees in a day, whereas in Victoria it might be closer to 20 or whatnot. I think very rarely it goes above sort of 20 to 25, those sort of areas. And so the main numbers to think about is if it does, as long as the temperature fluctuation, whatever area you're installing in, stays below, I think it was 23 degrees, then you can actually, as long as you're using the Clenergy Eco Rail with the Clenergy splicers, you can actually go up to 100 meters on your array, which is effectively, almost 100 panels. Now it's not advisable, but the nature of the way that the splicers are manufactured, they allow for a bit of displacement or expansion and contraction in the rails. And so, yeah, I mean, effectively the answer is, 40 meters most likely wouldn't be a problem. As long as you're not in a place, Lily, where the temperature is going to fluctuate more than in a 24-hour period, more than 23 degrees. That's the answer to that one. But go for it.
No, I just had something to cover that off. Yeah. Obviously, you have to refer to the manufacturer installation manual there on expansion gaps. So, breather gaps between rows. I know LG, I think they stipulate a 20 mil gap, I think, Costa, or it used to be. I think it might even be only a 6 mil gap now. So that was something to consider as well.
Oh, as in you've got two arrays side by side, you're talking about the gaps between the arrays?
The gaps between rows. Yep. So you have 2 rows of panels in portrait. You have to have like a minimum spacing between the rows.
I'm not following you. Are you talking about shading now?
No. So if you had 2 rows of 10 in portrait,
mm-hmm.
1 row of 10, 1 row of 10, the gap between those 2 rows has to be a minimum of, say, 20 mil if it was LG. I'm not sure if that's what it is anymore, because I think they changed it in the last couple of years. Okay. But this is saying it's in landscape.
Oh, yeah. That was a landscape one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Cool.
But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure on our install guide, I don't think it says 100 meters. I'm pretty sure it goes up to about 30 from memory. But if you want to push those numbers, you can. That's the message today, basically.
And obviously,
Cool.
you want to make sure you take into account future servicing of said array. If you need to get to like a panel right in the middle of that array, that could be problematic. But a lot of installers do account for that. And if the
On
customer,
residential though, like, is it much? Do people actually care about that stuff as much? The installers, you reckon?
especially not with end phase, where with the module level monitoring remotely, you can probably pinpoint exactly which module is probably having an issue in the future, and you can be able to take the steps to access that panel directly. And that, a lot of installers do factor that in with their service costing moving forward. But no, it wouldn't be so much of an issue for resi as compared to commercial. Obviously, you just have to take into account the racking manufacturing installer guide there, which is what Sean was sort of talking about before. But we all know that I love landscape and vertical rail, and to use as much roof as possible to maximise the PV and maximise the yield. And end phase is great kit, so no issues there as long as customers are aware.
Sounds good. I will move on to the next discussion point.
It's 10 mil. It's 10 mil, the breathing gap. I just read the Marcus Lambert comment in the thread. So I was wrong on my 2 attempts at answering that question.
And Marcus would have pulled you up on it as well, so lucky you rectified it.
Yeah. Can cause glass breakage due to expansion. Need a breathing gap 5 to 10 mil all round.
Okay. All right, excellent. All right, good start. On to the next one. Okay, so the next one we've got is a post from Matt Hines, also on the Solar Cutters Working Together group. Thinking of getting one of these to cut rail on site. What are others using? I already have portable circ saw with the alley blade that makes a big mess on the roof. So what do you guys use, Jack? Like, do you guys get the longer lengths of rail and cut them? Like Sean, what do you guys experience like with those scenarios?
Well, I mean, from our perspective, we very rarely get on the roof and cut a rail. It's more
cut a rail.
Cut a rail, yeah.
Cut a rail. Good plug.
Free plug there for you. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know this one. I can only vouch for the tool companies that we've had experiences with in the past, is from a commercial perspective, and one of those is Milwaukee. I don't know exactly what specific tool they manufacture, but I know they're a very reputable company. I was actually talking to an installer the other day, and he was mentioning he mentioned Milwaukee, and that he really likes that they tend to listen to the installers on the ground when they're designing their new tools, and they're always constantly innovating, coming out with new products. So there's a little free plug for Milwaukee there. But other than that, the tools that we use to cut rails would look vastly different to the ones that are being used on the roof. So I can't really comment on it.
You guys have got channel and stuff too, like 5-6 meter lengths of rail as well, don't you? You guys use like commercial jobs, like?
Yeah. So we can cut. Right. If it's a commercial job, as long as the MOQs are there, and this is more for the cutter rail, you got a bit more flexibility there. I think you can get them manufactured to anywhere between, I think 3 meters and 7 meters. And so, and if you combine that with the design tool, like the Easy Quote, for example, where you can actually select optimized rails and do a design based on, an optimized rail length, then you don't need to cut the rails. But I know that it's still, majority of installs, there is, a bit of trimming going on the edge of the rails, which is fine.
And usually done on the ground.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Or the roof, but I think it comes down to installer preference if it's on the ground or the roof. And like from Matt Hines' perspective, like if he couldn't get, he had 3 extra panels left over and he's using 4 meter rail, like, are you finding installers are cutting off the bits they don't need, like, and just to make it all neater and tighter, or they leave the rail as it is? I find I'd cut them down, like to length.
Yeah, but they generally would, though, to make it look neat and tidier.
Yeah, definitely on the ends, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, cool. We'll
I think Hines caps them off too. I saw a nice photo the other day where he had some of the Hollywood rail with he couldn't find any black caps, unfortunately, but he put the grey caps on the end. It looked pretty good, actually. I liked it.
Yeah. All this stuff looks pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on. Okay, so the next one, we've got a post from Levi Lawrence. Who else loves a 13.2 kilowatt tile Friday, made possible by the Tile 3 Kick 3000? So this one also had close to 1,500 views and had a fair few comments and reactions there. But what do you guys got to think about that one?
I think it's very innovative.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it. Is it that hard to kick the tiles up? That's the question, I suppose.
I haven't got my
It looks like
working
it looks like one of those things that the SWAT team comes in to knock your door down with.
What are those things called?
Is it a battering ram?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called or not? Or maybe that's like.
I like how we still got the 2 screws through the tile foot into the timber.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You guys haven't done anything similar or seen anything similar?
No,
Yeah,
I've still
a battering ram.
the tiles, but no, I haven't had my my front door knocked down. I was, something that looks quite similar to that device.
Are you saying you have had your front door knocked down, but something that doesn't look like that device, or just?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Was that when you took Telstra to the ombudsman?
Yes, that's when it was actually a battering ram into their front door, to be honest. But we all got there in the end, and it was a good result for Longy versus Telstra at the ombudsman.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the main thing is it's a multi-use tool. I mean, if you for the contractor out there, you're out on the roof, you got to smash those tiles up to get them up, and then if you don't get paid by the retailer, you can take it down to their door and knock the door in and get some payment at the end of the day as well. So.
I think, Glenn, we can make our own one. I'm called the Cutter Kick, and just change the numbers. Just not make it 3,000, make it something else. Probably not 2020, to be honest. Bit of a bad sentiment with that number, but
yeah,
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000 is better than 3,000. Yeah.
It says here Ben Williams made the Tile Buster 2600 over 2 years ago. Looks like it's been retired, but yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's innovative. I do give it that.
And all about innovation, like creating new boundaries, pushing the limits.
I might go for a Solar Cutters Innovation Award next year at Solar Cutters.
Hopefully,
it'll inspire others to make similar battering rams or the Tile Kick 3000.
Well, fingers crossed.
I'm just not sure what the customer's thinking when the installer rocks up with all this flashy gear and then pulls that out of the van, and then hops up onto the roof. But if it works,
each their own. Yeah. We'll go on to the next one. I've got one from Reece Kennedy. It's a longish one, so I'll read it. Hey guys, have a few fellas lately asked where to get the apprentices to do in ISO, what to get the apprentices to do in ISO. They keep the training up with COVID, obviously now in Melbourne with the extension of the lockdowns. A lot of the boys have been at home doing nothing now for months. I decided to build them a training room. The picks all get changed each time with different appliances and ratings, teaches them about contractors, two and three way switching and switchboards. When they're finished, I plug my lead into a caravan outlet and test it all with them, giving them pointers, etc. They really enjoy it, and I really like seeing their brains about to explode, working out cable sizing, breaker and isolator, string sizing. Anyway, long-term benefit is the key. So what have you guys been doing, Jack, like with obviously the installers not really installing, like are they doing more training and things like that, or what's been going on there?
Yeah, so we've obviously been mandated into the solar Vic working safely in the solar industry. So we're all sort of going through that training at the moment. And obviously we still have a bit of commercial work on regionally, which is good to keep the installers busy. So that's us, but I really like the idea here from Reece, keeping people busy and keeping the mind ticking along there, and sort of doing that on the spot training where you probably wouldn't do when you've got a busy week full of installs. And obviously there's only so many times you can clean the warehouse there as well, or go through Clenergy ends and mid clamps and sort all them out for the vans. But I do want to see more from, maybe the SEC and the CEC to maybe open up some more training avenues for budding apprentices, where obviously the CPD point program is really only available for CEC accredited designers and or installers, mainly installers. I want you to get their CPD points up 100 per year. It would be good if it could be, say, opened up to apprentices who aren't accredited, so they can actually start doing the training, start accruing some points to maybe go towards their future accreditation, or just open up the training in general, because there's heaps of webinars and good training materials on there. And obviously we've seen a large flooding of manufacturers offering their training via webinar. Obviously, Enphase have a lot, Fronius have a lot, and Solar Edge as well as a whole heap of other manufacturers like Sungrow. I just think it's about getting them into the habit of doing routine training. And obviously
constantly upskilling sort of thing.
Yeah. And I know of a lot of installers there, some larger operators who have a mock roof in the warehouse. So, doing some mock installs, and obviously working on safety as well. And edge protection here in Victoria is quite popular here at the moment, obviously. Yeah.
You guys, Sean, at Clenergy are doing a few things and the mental health stuff. I don't want to give that a bit of a plug as well, like what's been going on.
Yeah, we've got a couple of things going on. So just on the, like a big part of, the lockdown situation in Victoria, and we're all here, we're feeling it every day, is definitely mental health. It can be pretty taxing on on different people and also, I'm sure that my partner's sick of me being around all the time and, not out of the house. So yeah, we've got a mental health awareness webinar with Ray Bonney from the White Owl Foundation and Rob Edwards, he's from the It's Time Foundation, and he does a lot of work with wellness and mental health. He's quite a common keynote speaker. A few of the guys might have seen him at some of the corporate events. And Ray is, she's been working with specifically men for a long time in the mental health space. So that's happening, today's the 8th of September. That's happening actually this Thursday. So, which is what is today? Tuesday. So 2 days.
Yes, this will probably be filmed and published, I guess, probably
most likely.
after
that. You would have missed it as a waste of a plug. But I will do some. If this is out by early next week, then we're also we are running a Clenergy tips and tricks webinar with 35 CPD points for all the cutters out there that want to get on that. That's going to be next Thursday, the 17th of September.
Beautiful. With Geetha or Steve or yourself, or a bit of a mixed bag?
Well, normally it would be either myself or Geza, but this time around, there's a little known bloke in the organisation who he sort of hangs behind the scenes, but he's the resident genius, Ivan Ross Gomez.
Ivan.
I know you guys know. So Ivan's going to be the one running that.
Unsung hero.
He is. I'm singing him now, singing his praises. So that's pretty cool. That's happening, Thursday. Just double check that.
But yeah, there's obviously really good things you guys are doing, trying to, I guess, be productive. And like Jack said, going on from what Reece was saying, like you got to constantly, I guess, upskill and learn more and educate, and all this there's always changes and regulations to get input throughout the industry. So I guess you got to stay on the cutting edge, if you might say. But like, and the mental health stuff's massive, like, and it's really admirable and positive that you guys are sort of highlighting it, and we're completely sort of behind it. And I guess it's something that's been an ongoing thing that we all have to be focused on as an industry and as a society that is getting enough airtime now.
Yeah, that's right.
And I always used to say, there's so many things we could be doing if we just close the curtains, for a few months or so.
Well, Sean doesn't have curtains at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit worrying not having curtains.
I had to burn them for heat. So, things are getting pretty tough over here.
So, there's a lot of things you can fix around the process,
Yeah.
the office, whatnot.
I mean, but just on a personal note, though, what have you guys been doing? It doesn't have to be all work related. What have you been doing in lockdown that you wouldn't have normally had time to do?
Talk to the missus. No, seriously. No, but like that's the thing. There's so much we can do. Like we can't leave the house. Like watching a lot of TV, and like I love my TV and my series, but you get over it, Like I bought the 1989 Batmobile Lego, 3,500 pieces last week. So I'm getting through that. Yes, unreal. Yeah, wait till
89 Batmobile.
89
Wow.
Batmobile, 3,500 pieces. It's like 12 hours plus of work. It's
fun.
It's huge. It's like this big. Like it's awesome. So you got to occupy yourself in different ways. Like I'm generally got the pace for those type of things and puzzles, but you're into the Batman a bit. So you've got to find new things to do because like we're all pretty social and keen going out for a drink, a dinner, and a catch up. But it's obviously very difficult. But look, it is what it is, and we just got to sort of look at the big picture. I don't know what Jack's been doing, but
just buying appliances,
just
watching TV, just sitting on solar social media, feeding my cats, spending time with my partner.
Or like me and Solar Wholesale, just waiting for the phone to ring. Yeah.
Yeah. Pointing out things that are glaringly obvious on Facebook. Talking to Rami on WhatsApp.
Rami, yeah. All right, so we'll move on. This is the last one we've grabbed from the Solar Cutters Working Together Facebook page, and it's sort of very pertinent with the stuff where Solar Cutters is doing with Clenergy. How important is Australian content and supporting Australian jobs for sundries like battery cabinets to customers? So that's from Bradley Payton, or he's from Power Plus, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, Power Plus.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's sort of a very pertinent question, especially now with where the economy is and the, I guess, more restrictions potentially on importing and stuff like that. Like we've got the Clenergy Karroum, which is manufactured up in Queensland. It's 100% Australian made, but do we see more and more products, solar components, miscellaneous bill of materials, Boss products come from Australia? Like what are you guys sort of thinking?
This is a pretty deep question, really.
Well, do you have a personal view as well as put Clenergy to one side, but like where do you sort of see? You've been in solar for a long time, you can tell. Like,
yeah, look, I think we're going to see a lot. I mean, it's definitely with everything going on, macroeconomic wise globally with China and the US and Australia and all those sort of things. I think that we're going to see more of a drive to manufacture locally for sure. And that's something that we've been striving to do that for a long time. We've been striving to get some local manufacturing in place since we started, really. And now it's finally at a point where it makes sense to get with the cutter rails and whatnot, and the market's ready for that product.
Because rail coming from overseas is the more and more is getting bound by higher duty taxes and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. So, there is I guess not officially, but I think the Australian government is trying to set a floor price on the the price of aluminium extrusions that are coming into the country to help to, continue to stimulate the local manufacturers. So, which is good. At the same time, it's hard to say how things are going to pan out moving forward, and it's a very sensitive topic. But the thing about solar globally is that we're very tied to China, really, and so this sort of thing that I've been thinking a lot about recently with COVID and everything that's going on with the US and China. How is this going to pan out, and what's it going to mean for the industry moving forward? Have you guys thought about that?
Well, just quickly on Clenergy before we ask sort of Jack, like, is it on the table to having more components manufactured here in Australia? Is that sort of maybe in the long-term plan to, if it's feasible, like obviously to do so?
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely something that we'd want to do. I mean, ideally at the end of the day, we want to, it's all about delivering value to the end customer. So, and it is important if delivering value is having local content, then that's the way that we'll be going. In the past, it wasn't. And so, but now, the installers are able to vote with their dollars, and they're voting for locally made products. And that's the way that we want to go down.
And solar's typically usually priced quite low, because we're always, quality operators are always competing against those bill buster Wi-Fi power specials. So you've always got the customer by comparing your far superior quote, with a Wi-Fi powered inverter. I'm just trying to think what sort of difference, say, an Australian made sundry would make to the bottom line. Let's take that into account, how much it's going to increase the price by, and how it's conveyed to the customer as well. Obviously, customers usually go on panels and inverter, which what I see on Solar QA, it's mostly the modules themselves and the inverter, and maybe the smart meter. All the sundry / miscellaneous hardware, including the racking, is rarely cited or rarely brought up in a quote comparison. But obviously I fully support Australian manufacturing as well. But I just have a feeling that right now, a lot of those installers would sort of struggle if there was a significant increase on that price in terms of the wholesale price, because they're still getting beaten, on quotes already, which are, far less. But obviously price is obviously still a huge factor as well. Because the post here was specifically talking about sundries. So the example here was the battery cabinet, which I fully endorse Australian-made products. Because you can use the other side of it, where you look at the mill inverter, which is Australian-made inverter, and I've only heard great things about it. It's obviously more expensive than other things out there, but I'm seeing it's getting a lot of good traction. A lot of people are buying into it because it's very hard to compare to it, because it's really there's nothing else sort of quite like it in terms of its origin. So I'm a big fan of it, and hopefully we get to see more of them into the market.
Yeah, so as long as the economics make sense, which sort of both guys are saying, I think there's still ultimately people would want to support an Australian product if they could, I think, from what I gather.
And obviously there's customers that want to buy quality, and they prefer, to spend more on quality. And if that comes with an Australian made a component, then that's great. That's great for us. It's great for the customer. But you're always going to have those customers who just want the cheapest possible thing on their roof, and they just don't care where it's come from.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's a lot of the time who we're competing with. So,
but they're the guys that aren't solar cutters and aren't cutter spec installs.
Yeah, but we are seeing a good push for that now, especially on the racking side, where you're seeing more and more Australian-made racking. Yeah. But this is just my opinion and just my 2 cents. When we were doing Sunlock at Energy Matters exclusively, and that was 100% Australian designed and manufactured, it really made no difference to the customer, like the origin of that product, simply because it wasn't a major component in the purchase, i.e. compared to the inverter or the panels. That's just my feedback and my opinion. But I think customers are becoming more cluey now, especially with the current COVID climate. I think I think we're moving in a better direction, especially with the racking.
I think as long as we're the main thing. I mean, what does it mean to be made closer to your home? Is the question you need to ask yourself.
Well, I think it's local support of it is the key, the biggest.
Well, this is the thing, right? It's not only. I mean, local support is great, and it's one thing, but I think as long as if we do get to a point where there's a lot more local manufacturing in Australia, and I'm not talking about solar specifically, any industry in general, what I'd like to see is that money goes towards innovation, because we need to grow as a country, right? And we've got an opportunity to do so. So the main thing I think is, as long as that money is being used to update the machinery and increase automation and get us into a position where we can actually it makes sense whether there's a dumping duty or not to manufacture locally. That's the ideal world situation. We get, that you get to have your cake and eat it too in those situations. And that's the main thing that I want to see moving forward. And whatever money gets invested ultimately by the consumer, by voting with their dollars to purchase an Australian made product moving forward, let's make sure that money is well spent in the companies that it's going towards locally, that they're going to be continuing to innovate and to grow the country in general, because that's what we need to do moving forward. And
then you'll be at the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah.
And obviously the highest quality component is obviously the most important. So I 100% agree with you, just as long as that's 100% conveyed to the end user when they're going through their purchase cycle, and I think it's great. But at the moment, they're just not really seeing it, because the post is specifically talking about like sundries, like battery cabinets, and what that means to the installer. Just at the moment, it's just the customer's just not quite seeing it, I don't think, because it's not a major component.
You're exactly right. Like, installer probably is wanting or preferring the locally made product, but at the end of the day is the framing component, for example, is several $100s compared to the inverters, and the panels are several $1,000s. So it's, how do you sort of justify that to the customer that this small part of the system is so critical?
I think the sentiment was, I really admire the fact that he did put the poll up. Though. And I think it resonated a lot with people there, and sort of made them think about, oh, hey, actually, I wouldn't mind getting that made here. And if I can source it locally, maybe we'll spend the extra and get it. And then maybe they'll change their sales approach. But I think it was a great initiative to put that poll up. And I think we would see more like that. Around different sundries like isolators, and obviously racking as well as a big one, because obviously racking's like the third, panels, inverter, racking, and then the sundries, because racking's arguably the most cheapest, but it's obviously the most critical component, because obviously it holds the thing to your structure. I think it was a great post.
Great. Yeah.
I think like it's just to reiterate that. I think things are changing, Longy. Like, I know how you mentioned with Sunlock that it just wasn't an important factor as far as the locally made side of things, I guess 6 or 7 years ago. But I think that is changing. With the word I'm hearing on the ground from some of the major retailers now is that they're actually putting this up as part of their sales pitch, almost as a closing point sometimes, that they can now, introduce some locally made products into the install, and it's helping them to win jobs, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, like, it was important to us at the time, and obviously we did use it in our sales pitch, and about 90% of the time it just wasn't really a factor in the end purchase. They were just concerned about the panels and inverters. And then you go, oh, the racking's Australian made, and they'll be like, oh.
Did you do many feedbacks or questionnaires or follow-ups with some of these guys at Energy Matters about their decision-making process to understand, like, what the sentiments you were saying there? Like, did you guys do that research?
No.
But you probably, I agree with.
But
you.
I just think it was. At the time, 6-7 years ago, it just wasn't, the more prevalent product to be talking about its country of origin. Whereas now, in the current climate, especially elevated by COVID, you have an inverter manufacturer, Mill, that is Australian made, and a lot of operators are selling it on the fact that it is Australian designed and manufactured, and the fact that it is a higher quality unit, and a lot of operators are selling it on that. For like a premium, and they're getting good results, and the product does perform.
And especially in certain regions all over Australia, like specific markets where it's more critical than others. Like, people who would 100% want as much Australian-made product as they can, as opposed to others. But like regional areas, for example, I think would be more inclined, generally speaking, to support Australian products as much as they could.
Yeah.
That's where the local innovation comes in, because they obviously care about Australia as a market. Whereas a lot of other manufacturers, you know, it's hard to, you've got a much larger market globally, and you've got to assign the amount of resources you have towards the, unfortunately or fortunately, the places where the majority of revenue is coming through. So it's harder to have an ear on the ground in all places all at once. I think that's one of the things that really helped us being born here, was that we never lost that in the end. And just listen, like that's where innovation comes from, right? I mean, it's listening to the guys closest to your location and designing products specifically for Australia, which is a different market to many others.
And that's why you with the Karroum, for example, like you ask the solar social media and all the solar cutters for feedback. Do you want a longer length? Do you want what type of length rail do you need? Do you want an Australian product? Blah blah blah. And here we are in September, and the Karroum's flying out the door, so to speak. And I think there's nearly within some channels, there's more people buying the Australian-made product than the traditional product. So you ask the market, you got the information, and you produce something. And that's like, obviously, like we're very close with Clenergy as a company, but like it's admired, and it'd be great if obviously more companies sort of did that, got that research to create better products for us as an industry.
Yeah, spent more time listening, less time talking, I suppose, is the main thing. That's all. It's not rocket science, you know. You just listen to what the people want, and then you design around it, and you prioritize based on, like what we're doing recently with the change of product development. We're moving to an agile framework, and then you get on with business. Like I think many manufacturers in many industries could learn from that. You know,
exactly.
And the way you're able to quickly extract valuable information and feedback off the Facebook platform, specifically the Solar Cutters Working Together page, I thought was quite beneficial for you guys as well.
100%. It's been like, I liken it to, you know, in the old days, once again, talking locally here, you'd go out into the streets and go to the marketplace and hear what the word is on the ground, and talk to the different vendors and get feedback from the guys on the ground. That's really what this is. It's a communal space where you can, there's nothing else like it, as far as from our perspective. The amount of information we get from the Soul Cutters Working Together Facebook page, and the amount of feedback, it's phenomenal. And the cool thing about it is, the more you engage, the more people engage back. So, you know, it's
that information sharing and that willingness to learn and to educate and provide the feedback. Facebook wasn't as prevalent, obviously, 5, 6, 7 years ago, but I don't think that people were necessarily as willing to sort of share information, especially with competitors and other people within their industry. And now we're getting that, and solar on social media is a great platform.
Yeah, there's quite a synergy about it, especially on that Solar Cutters Working Together page, where a lot of those members would arguably be competitors, or they would be, you know, someone in Sydney, someone in Perth, don't even know each other, but they're sharing information and they're collaborating, which is great. But that's been happening for a few years now on that platform. But what we're seeing now is there's more of a surge in like-minded manufacturers and suppliers who want to get involved in the platform and actually help, the boots on the ground and extract the feedback and information in a way that's beneficial to both parties. And that's sort of what Clenergy is doing is now, but we are seeing a few others starting to do it as well. And obviously, me and Costa are quite picky about manufacturers. Obviously, they got to, be all about quality in their community and not all about
send us gift packs and stuff.
Yeah, the gift packs are great.
Solar swag, yeah.
But no, we don't let everyone in. No, but it has come a long way. And I think that's the beauty of it, where, there's a lot of great ideas and they get bounced around. And most people understand, the rules, how it all works. And we do have a solid admin. But just the way that manufacturers sort of like Clenergy are engaging on that forum is quite powerful as well. Even if it's negative, it's still quite constructive. I think that sort of resonated well with Clenergy. I was part of that sprint, and a lot of that feedback came through rapidly off that Facebook forum, where sort of 5-7 years ago, you'd have to wait months, sometimes years, to get, some some sort of feedback back on like a product.
Totally.
Yes.
How cool is it you can make a poll? I mean, that alone is so valuable. Seriously.
And I like how you can just have randoms just add stupid crap onto the poll just to sort of ruin the whole thing. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, I honestly, I just want milk that tastes like real milk. You know, that's the main thing.
Have you guys tried oat milk?
I've been on the macadamia and almond milk.
That's the only milk that Costa can drink, technically.
Yeah, I'm like
Really?
intolerant to a lot of milk.
Is
So
that a religious thing? Or?
not that I know of.
He had some $800 test in Germany that told him he can't eat anything.
Well, yes, but like not anything, but like there's certain, like a lot of the dairies are bad. But the oat milk's fantastic. Like I'll drink milk out of the carton like a homeless person. Like I love it. But like this oat milk, like it really does it for me. And like oat milk and Nutri-Grain, like forget about it. Like that's just the pinnacle. But yeah, I'd recommend oat milk for those who haven't tried oat milk.
What's wrong with drinking milk out of a carton?
It's frowned upon, I think. Like I enjoy it. But...
Do you know, I saw some guy walking down the street the other day eating a lettuce like an apple.
That's awesome.
Like
have you eaten the tomato like an apple?
Big iceberg lettuce, like the big ball of lettuce.
Yeah, the iceberg lettuce.
Have you eaten a tomato like an apple?
I don't know. Cherry tomato, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so
we're getting off topic. I think
yeah.
Off topic now. I think we're talking about
that was good. The Australian-made stuff. That's very pertinent, and like it's important what everyone's doing, and the constant education and feedback that's coming off Facebook, especially. Like more and more manufacturers will hopefully invest more in the local resource, which we all ultimately want. There's a couple of posts from Crap Soul I want to touch on, but I don't want to stretch us too long for time, so there's one that I found quite amusing. Also from Adam Karroum, who's over across in Adelaide. Ridge cap feet are now available, a mounting solution we've all been waiting for. This had nearly 15,000 views on Crap Solar.
Wow.
Anything to add with this unique design that you guys sort of found? Like,
yeah, there's a couple of things on that one.
Is Clenergy going to sign it off, tick it off?
Well, it's not so much Clenergy, but under Australian standards, you just can't get that close to the ridge, unfortunately. So
yeah,
that's a bit of an issue. But
unless you do wind tunnel testing, sure, I'm told.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it, but you've got to think about it from the perspective of a structural engineer, right? So, you know, you're a structural engineer. You've got to, you know, you're certified or you're insured to be able to sign off on these things, and you've got to be able to basically, if something goes wrong and you sign off on a job like that, you're fighting against the Australian standards at that point if it ever goes to court. So.
Is this the ridge capping install?
Yeah, this is the one where he's installed up to the very edge of the ridge.
Oh,
he's
right
also
on the ridge capping.
Yeah, he's
triple rail too.
I'm sure you're going to bring up a picture of this, Costa. Is it?
Yeah. In post production, I'll get the team working on it. Yeah, they should be popping up above our heads somewhere. Yeah.
This is obviously a parody. This is obviously not his install.
No, obviously not. No.
Oh, okay, because it looks like those 240-watt Hyundai Polys, Costa.
Hyundai. Well, we've got the new 350 shingle like at the moment. Yeah.
But I'm really I'm just puzzled how they went to the, you know, obviously read the manual and they thought they'll do the triple rail. And then
is it a triple rail one? Okay.
Yeah, it's got the triple rail. Yeah, top rows got the triple rail. So they've obviously thought they're meeting the clamping zone requirements as per the manual. And then they've just, obviously they got the L foot straight through the ridge capping there. So they've just thought, obviously I can't pull out the top tile because it'll crack the ridge capping. So I'll just drill straight through it.
Yeah, look, it's not.
This happen a lot though. Like, people make the same mistake a lot though, Jack. You guys have seen.
That's not on tile. On tin, obviously, you run the gauntlet every time of being within 200 mil of the ridge capping. But tile, it's day one stuff. Really, you should be, you know, quite a few tiles down there, with the tile bracket. Yeah, you just don't do it. It's AS 1170.2. Yeah, Sean, with wind loading.
Yeah. Although I was going to say, sometimes in certain cases, if this was on a townhouse, I think in certain cases you can actually go. There is no exclusion zones in those cases. So,
we don't know where this install is. Like Adam's in
No.
South Australia, but like maybe it's or anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, like where he's found it. Like I don't, we'll might have to sort of ask him, but yeah, like I'm sure who knows what other rules people have in other places, I guess.
Is this the case, Sean, where you'd have to get like a structural engineer to sign off?
I don't even think you could. I mean, if it was just a general resi install, I think you'd struggle to find a structural engineer to sign off on that, because they're basically going against what you've got in the standards, in the Australian standards. So they can do it, obviously, where it makes structural sense. I mean, this all comes down to foundational mathematics at the end of the day, but anytime a structural engineer has to do anything that's outside of those standards, they want to be sure that they know what they're doing, because, if anything comes back later on, then they could lose their licensing. So, yeah.
It looks like here they haven't even used a screw through the L foot. They've just siliconed the L foot onto the ridge capping. If you look like in the photos, no screw. Maybe that's a Sikaflex. Do your best and the rest, I guess.
I'm hoping that whoever took those photos was there to rip that system off and reinstall, hopefully.
Yeah,
but if you're I've been in that situation before, Sean, when I was doing sales, and and the customer's like, "Oh, can you just install them here up against the ridge capping?" And you sort of have to explain, "No, you can't," and then you have to sort of go through all the relevant standards and installation manuals, just convey the point to the customer. But I guess now I could just go back with this photo.
Yeah, basically.
Looks like a flat boral shingle terracotta tile too. Jeez.
It's a real challenging one.
But I'm just baffled by the 3 grail. Like, they've obviously done something right.
Well, yeah, potentially.
They've tried. And then
we're trying to find the positive, Sean.
Maybe they're trying to hide the fact that they've obviously siliconed an L foot onto the ridge capping, haven't used a tile bracket. Although we'll put 3 rails in and you won't be able to see it. It'll cover the whole thing up. That's a great post. That's a Friday night one, I think that is.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd try too hard to get into the mind of that installer necessarily.
It'd be fascinating.
Well,
but then, when they finished the install, they probably thought they were a hero.
Clocking off early down at the pub for a couple of cheeky ones and get all this constructive feedback on Facebook a few weeks later. So,
because those panels costed, they would be, what would they be? That's like an old poly, like 3 bus bars. Would that be like a 220, 230?
I would have said, panel? Maybe even less, or something in that range. Maybe
so this should be from a while ago then, right?
So it was probably before crap. Well,
that's a scary thing. Exactly. It's been like that for a long time. But look, you see it on Facebook and other sort of platforms, like people sort of reusing panels or clearing off old warehouses and stuff, finding things, so who knows?
So Sean, just quickly, on this one, if it was Clenergy and say this thing ripped off the roof, what sort of happens there is that's obviously void of the installation manual and obviously the relevant standards that go with it.
Yeah, that would be, as per the install guide, you've got exclusion zones, obviously, on most resi installs. As I said, there is some very rare exceptions, like when with certain townhouses, but generally on a boral shingle tile roof like that, it's just around a normal resi house, and they haven't complied with the exclusion zones. So, what's
the townhouse reference?
It's to do with the way that they. I won't go into the whole in and outs of it today, but I think because of the way that they calculate whether you're on a certain type of building that will have exclusions, you calculate. So there's one way of calculating, which is sorry, let me just get my lights on here. There we go. Whoa, that's bright. I mean, I can run through the maths if you want, but basically there's 2 ways to calculate. There's 2 ways to calculate these sort of things, and which is most resi properties where it ends up being you've got an exclusion zone, which is 2S, which is S being the distance between the top of the roof sheet and the bottom of the panel times 2. So that's your generally your exclusion zone in most cases. And then
it's normally 200 mil normally, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ends up being.
Yeah, usually 200 mil, but it can be anywhere between, I think, 100 and 600 under the standards. But, and so the way that you determine whether you're using that methodology is by the measurements of the building itself. And that's all, you can find all that info in the install guides. If it falls with outside of those specs, then it ends up being a situation which is where, you know, you don't have you've got different zones. So you've got a corner, an edge, intermediate, and internal zone instead of an exclusion and an upwind, downwind, and central zone. So, but yeah, I won't go into the maths on that one today. It's a little bit, it's too much for.
People can contact you directly, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Or just, jump on the website, look at the install guide. It's pretty simple. We're also working on a calculator for the EasyQuote tools. So anyone who's got access to the EasyQuote tool, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a roof zone calculator on there, which will be pretty handy because it can be quite difficult, especially on these commercial jobs where you've got, like I said, the corner, edge, intermediate and internal zones, and you've got your panel layouts and you're kind of like, okay, so half the panels in one zone, half's in the other. What spacings do I use, and those sort of things that can help with that. So
I love your calculator, and as you guys know, I'm relatively basic, even though doing solar for like 9 years. But that's like it makes it so easy, I guess, to calculate it. But yeah, even with that example there, like which sort of zone the modules are in, but everyone's just using the worst case scenario, but potentially, I guess, increasing their outlay initially, so if you can clarify that with this extra addition to the calculator, like happy days. Like,
but could you send that calculator over to the TechSafe auditors?
Sure, I can make them their own account if they really want. If they want to jump in there and have a look.
But
it's public though. What do you mean?
Sorry?
No, it is public. There is a public customer account. Yeah.
Freeloaders.
Yeah, we don't charge for that one yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Well, don't do a who and just charge more for things after the fact. All right. Well, that's sort of the most of the posts we sort of wanted to discuss. Just wanted to sort of highlight a few of the key contributors we've had across the social media groups. So the Solar Cutters working together over the previous sort of month prior to the filming of this. Bo Capitani had the most interactions. I can't remember Bo's company name, but I think he's newer to solar, but he had 246 comments over the past 28 days, which is a hell of a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And
those are rookie numbers.
Well,
is that Bo's real name? Capitani?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Like it could be, yeah.
Let's not jump into details on people.
Yeah, because
not trying to expose anyone.
Well, you can Google it after if you want, I guess.
Yeah, because obviously the next one I wanted to highlight was the Crap Solar highest contributor being Arnie Aardvark with 69 comments over the past sort of month. So the Crap Solar stuff's typically more people liking or sharing sort of posts rather than the interactions we get on Solar Cutters working together. But Arnie's had a fair few interactions there. So good on Arnie for the contributions. One sort of more final thing before we sort of start to wrap it up for episode 1, just wanted to sort of get your guys' opinion on that unusual use of the Clenergy framing that we saw as a basketball ring. I think that's from Pat Gangemi. What did you guys think of that? Like he's sort of put that up on his roof and now he's got a usable basketball ring.
I think it's a great use of excess off-cut rail. But does it meet those clamping zones, Sean? You're just rambling on before about, edge zones, internal zones, AS770. Does it meet those, or are you sort of okay with the concept?
Well, you'd have to ask the basketball ring manufacturer about that because, they're the ones that determine that. So
you get like slam dunk and see if it, rips off the roof. I wouldn't mind seeing a chain ring though, to be honest.
Look, I mean, I hope it's compliant with the basketball ring manufacturers because I don't think it's compliant with the Australian standards. Although, is there any Australian standards around installing basketball rings? That's the question.
Well, normally they're filled with sand. Well, mine was as a kid.
Or water, yeah.
Or water. Or water, yeah.
Yeah, I hate it when you tip them over and all the water poured out all over your shoes and stuff. Yeah.
Wouldn't mind seeing the net made out of some sort of solar-related sundry. Maybe some earth wire or...
Yeah, true. That'd be nice.
That's a next step. We can sort of I'll get in touch with him and maybe we'll see if we can get someone sort of slam dunk it and see.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
The integrity of it. Like I'll see if we can get a video of it and post it.
And have the solar panel as the backboard.
That would be interesting. Yeah, because that would have to comply with Australian solar standards, wouldn't it? So,
do you reckon that's a COVID project?
Definitely.
Surely that would be a COVID project.
I think it's relatively recent. Like I think probably wasn't much else to do, so why not? Like there's a few more we'll sort of share like in the next couple of episodes that I've seen, like one with that I use here for security camera system at my apartment building here. So like there's definitely other applications for solar framing as other than the traditional ones mounting onto the roof. So
when you're making no sales and you've got plenty of excess racking, sure.
Well, that's the thing. Like, someone smashed the CCTV cameras we had here at the apartment block, and so got the guy in, and so we got to protect it some way. I said, "Oh, I've got an idea." So we got some Hollywood, obviously brackets and things like that, and we sort of enclosed it. It looks unreal, like so.
Yeah, send me some pictures. We might branch into security next if that's the case.
No. I'll put it up for our next episode. We can sort of discuss it, see if he's installed it properly, but because it's pretty cutting edge. But yeah, anyway, so that's sort of about it for what we wanted to discuss today. A few sort of exciting things that are coming. We've recently ordered some co-branded merchandise with Clenergy and Solar Cutters. We'll get some of those promo packs sent out for free to some lucky, viewers in the next episode next month. So we'll hopefully get some of that out to you shortly. Obviously, COVID has delayed the production a little bit, and even if it didn't, that's the excuse we're using. So
locally made those ones, or
yes, coming out of Cheltenham, the factory in Cheltenham. Yeah, so
it's locally sourced.
Yeah, it's outside my 5 kilometre radius though, so I don't know how I'm going to go collect them, but maybe we'll have to get a delivery. So we'll send you the bill for that, Sean.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's okay though. But yeah, that's the thing. So hopefully you guys got a bit out of the content here, like the discussion points of some of these key trending topics on Facebook, on the solar groups, with more obviously a framing focus, who's with Sean here. We'll aim to do this again in about a month's time, again with Sean. But yeah, we'll definitely be doing this a bit more often with other industry, key industry stakeholders and influencers, I guess, to primarily, I guess, shine the light a bit more on what gets discussed on social media to, bring to the attention a lot of these really good concepts and ideas and feedback that might go unnoticed otherwise. So keep your eye on the screen.
He's got his eye on the screen. I can see him there flicking through pages on Facebook right now.
I am. I'm literally declining posts on Crap Solar.
But yeah, if anyone's got any sort of feedback, I guess, or would like to collaborate for future work, or any questions that you want to sort of answer in the next sort of podcast, or whatever they're sort of calling it these days. Hopefully this sort of turns out well and you've enjoyed the content, but we'll get better and better. Send all your ideas and questions to marketing@solarcutters.com, or obviously you can contact us on social media as sort of you can. But we've really enjoyed sort of chatting, and thanks Sean for your time, and Jack, as always, your tireless effort online and supporting all the industry, people within the industry. And we look forward to recording something again soon. You guys wanted to say a bit of goodbye, and we've enjoyed having you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I think you forgot to say like and subscribe. You got to remember to say that on these things. So I'll drop that in there.
You're
Day
the
one.
yeah.
Day one stuff.
No, this
Yeah.
is really cool. I love it. I'm very excited to be invited back. Hopefully, if you'll have me again, and then we'll see what's come up on the Facebook groups since today. So,
Yeah, exactly.
thanks
Jack,
again.
Jack, anything final to add?
Well, I just want to give a shout out if I can.
I guess, like, is it someone's birthday or something? Or
No, I just want to give a shout out to the Australian women in solar energy. So the admins that I wanted to give a shout out to were Bobby McKibben, Sophie Wright, Sam Craft, Christine Kennedy, and our good friend Lily, who featured previously. But I think they're doing great things for the industry, and we're happy to support them in any way possible.
Yeah, we'll hopefully have one of them on one of these Cutter Files episodes in the coming weeks and months. And they're doing a fantastic thing for women in the industry and for the industry as a whole. So we're really excited to be
in the page.
Really excited to be supporting them. Obviously, go Jack. Yeah,
and the page is the Australian Women in Solar Energy Facebook page. It's a great one to get involved with. Just started, but we're happy to get behind it fully.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys. We'll do this again soon, and stay safe and enjoy the lockdown, and we'll chat again.
Cheers,
See ya.
Master.
Bye.
Yeah.